Good morning. Good morning, everyone, and happy Saturday. It says that we are connected. We're on the air. We're live, streaming live on SantaCruzVoice.com.
All over the world.
All over the world, and right here in Santa Cruz.
That's right.
Happy Saturday, Michael.
So pleased to be here with you, Bettina.
And on the line with us, we have my special new friend, my horse whisperer friend. I must say that, Doug. Good morning, Doug.
Morning. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you? Doug Hatran from Chaparral Ranch, the owners of Marina Equestrian Center.
Yeah.
Michael's staring at something. Oh, he wants me to pot up the...
Yeah.
See, you have to watch, Doug. My mentor in studio has his eyes on the control, so I have my eyes on him. So my
Actually,
focus...
the control we're looking at is called butt. But it's not Bettina's. It's the computer's butt, which is broadcast using this utility. Butt.
But
So
there you go.
So thank you, Doug, for being with us this morning. Thank you for that explanation of butt, Michael Olson. So that's my phone clicking, but it'll stop, everyone. So happy Saturday again and welcome. We're going to get back to our guest, Doug. Thank you for being with us this morning on Bettina's Buzz. And the reason that Doug is my guest, the main reason is Doug has become my riding instructor, my horsewoman teacher for both me and Serna there, right there in Marina, to learn about horses and the joy of riding. So
I have a question for Doug.
here you go, Doug.
Okay,
Yes.
Doug. What made Bettina and Serna go head over heels for horses?
Wow, that's a really good question. Well, horses have the ability to connect with people non-verbally. They're very sentient beings, and they have this ability to pick up on your vibrations based on your mood. They're very good at reading body language. They're very good at communicating how they feel, and they're really good at picking up how you feel, and they're honest. So I think the honesty in horses is the reason why a lot of people gravitate towards them, because a lot of times socially, we kind of miss those things. We need those things in our lives.
Is that why horses are often used as therapy?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, a horse is always going to tell you like it is. And, in terms of therapy, even if you're a person who just doesn't have anybody to talk to, if you just go and stand in front of a horse, you're going to end up telling that horse everything that's wrong with you. And that horse is not going to hold any judgment against you whatsoever. And that's the reason why horses are so good at providing this therapy for people.
And there you go. And a very valuable therapy tool, especially for those veterans who come back with post-traumatic stress syndrome and things like that. It seems like just working with the horses, not even riding them, but just like Serna and Bettina discovered, just cleaning out the stalls.
Yeah, no, I have some veterans that come up here and just to come up and just stand in front of a horse. And, I had one guy come up. He stood there for about maybe 3 minutes in front of one of my horses, and tears were streaming down his face. And he had a connection with that animal. And he said that he felt the level of forgiveness, that he'd never experienced before.
There's something to be said, which I have felt now, and I've heard about it, you will hear about it, in terms of the therapeutic healing power that a horse has. But there truly is something about when a horse comes to you with that. There's no words for it, but it's something magical.
Like Doug says, it's nonverbal.
When they come with that beautiful movement and they want you to touch them and you touch them properly, because there is a proper way to address yourself to a horse, to be trusted, and that they want to come to you, and that's part of learning about the horse.
Right. Horses, I mean, like, they're an animal that meets you halfway, and they expect that from you, right? So, if you're like a child and you see a horse and you run up to that horse, um, most of the time that horse is going to stand off. He's just going to lean back and kind of wait and feel you out for a little bit. But if you just take the time and stand in front of him, I mean, have him meet you halfway, just walk towards him and stand. That horse will assess how your mood is, how you feel, and that horse will come towards you, you know, and it tells you a lot about yourself, right? About your behavior, about your mood, and about things that are bothering you that you don't even realize. Like for me, sometimes I come in the morning and if I'm in a bad mood, none of my horses want to come anywhere close to me. They wait a good maybe 5 or 10 minutes, of me being around before they come close to me, and they can feel that vibration. They can feel and visually see how I carry myself, how I walk, and make the decision and know, hey, Doug's in a bad mood today,
People are like that too in the office, right? The boss comes in grumpy and angry, and everybody hides under their desk.
Right, and it's a very social thing, because horses are, like us. I mean, we live in groups, and horses live in herds. And what we don't know about horses, and what we don't realize, is that horses, they study people. They study every organism by the way that organism walks. So they study your gait, they study your posture, they study your body shape and how you move about. And that's how horses can recognize each other out of a whole entire herd and be able to tell, hey, this horse doesn't belong in this herd. What's it doing here? And it's not from a smell. It's not from anything of those things. They're actually visual animals, and they see and say, I don't recognize that body. I don't recognize that gait. Therefore, that, animal doesn't belong here.
What do they do when they see an animal that doesn't belong in the herd?
Well, I mean, they've learned that certain shapes of animals, if they come in the shape of like a dog or a bear or a cougar, that those things are dangerous, and they run away. Oftentimes when horses see humans, even in the wild, because I've spent time out there, in Death Valley and Nevada and places like that where there are wild horses, and a lot of them won't know what we are. They don't see enough of us to know that we're dangerous or anything. So they'll just stand around. They're curious and they watch, right? And if we don't pose a threat, they just kind of ignore us, right? But what humans don't realize is that we as animals that are curious, and we show our enthusiasm by approaching, that we're actually acting as a predator. And that's the reason why wild horses run away from us. But if we just transiently move about, and are in their presence for a while, they won't perceive us as a threat. And that's how a lot of people, even the guys that are out there doing wildlife photography, are able to get so close to these horses and take pictures. And that's because, they're familiarized. So with horses, horses have evolved for millions of years based on fear, right? They run away from everything that they see and think could be a threat. And, if you desensitize them to your presence, then they won't see you, they won't perceive you as a threat. And then they become very social animals. You just have to, as a person, as a human being, you just have to understand their language, right? And so when you understand a horse's language, then you can really, really make a connection with them. And this is what I teach in terms of horsemanship. I teach people how to recognize a horse's language and understand a horse's language.
Understand when Joey's testing, if you really learn the language. Joey's the horse I ride. Or Joe. I call him Joey because Doug calls him Joey. But what I love, and Doug, I want you to please as we ask you questions about horses, and it makes it obviously you're very knowledgeable about them, share with us your background, Doug. As both
Oh
a
gosh.
rancher, a cowboy, please share with us that.
Well, I cowboyed when I was a little kid. I spent a lot of time out there. I started mucking stalls when I was younger. I used to sneak out of the house, and go down to the local, um, horse ranch, and I would literally just go in there, and talk to the boss, and he'd pay me a couple bucks just to muck some stalls, and it was all for candy money when I was a little kid. But as I got a little bit older and more familiar with these animals, they would they would allow me to ride the horses. And then, every now and then my older sister, she would just take me up there, and we would go riding horses together and stuff. But as I got older, they started to trust me more. And then I started getting into, riding horses, pushing cattle and stuff like that. So I started at a very young age. I started I think I was like 10 years old when I just started mucking stalls. And then I got into my teens. I was old enough and big enough and strong enough that they trusted me to go out there and help them, just ride behind the cattle and push them. Just our presence was enough to make the cattle want to move. So we pushed cattle with horse, and then I got into the rest of the stuff, which was like learning how to train horses and such. I never really learned properly how to ride a horse until I was a little bit older. I just rode, and that's kind of the thing that I do these days. Like with Bettina, like I teach Bettina how to ride, and I taught her. Bettina, we spent 15 minutes, and you learned how to ride a horse.
But, and you're
Right.
very nice to say that, but Doug, you teach much more than that. That's how I feel. That's how Cerna and I feel as
Yeah.
your student. And I've told you, you teach us how to be with the horse, how to communicate with the horse. And
Yeah.
from your teaching, which I've always expressed, you riding is great and everything, but to communicate well with the horse and have a horse trust you is my goal. And
Yeah.
that's what you've taught me. And
Right.
that's what you naturally teach is what I mean. That's what you, Doug, I feel naturally teach your students.
Well, I feel that by teaching a person how to be a horse man or woman, that that's the primary, that's the bare fundamentals of getting on a horse and being able to stay safe on a horse. In this world, there are riders and then there are horsemen. You know, and riders are people. I'm probably going to piss off a lot of people, but by saying this, but riders are people who don't really connect with the horse more than saying, okay, I'm going to do this and this horse is going to do that, versus I'm going to ask this horse to do something, and we have a very nice communication and a relationship that this horse is going to want to do things with me. And that's the difference there, right? So what I teach Bettina and Cerna is that I say you guys need to understand that you can force a horse to do things, but that horse is going to be doing it begrudgingly, and it's just a matter of time until that horse doesn't want to do it anymore, and then you're in a dangerous situation. But to understand a horse's behavior and naturally work with that horse is very willing to do things for you. And that's the reason why, you see these guys out there and they're doing showmanship things with these animals. They're doing these reining competitions with these horses, and they're so willing to go out there and they just have a lot of fun because they enjoy doing that with their rider, versus, gosh, if I don't do this, I'm going to get punished. So I might as well just do it.
How
You know?
can you tell the difference? As a horseman, how can you tell the difference if the horse is doing things because I'm sure there is a difference. The horse that
There
really
is.
cares about their their rider, their friend, and someone who's just trained. Because I've seen the difference myself, which I've seen that at your ranch during grooming Joey. I've seen the animal react different to somebody else as opposed to me, but he still did what he was told to do because he's well trained.
Correct. So a lot of it is like I laid that premise in the beginning when I taught you about horse behavior. Right? These animals are fearful animals. Right? They're doing it out of fear, and they're not doing it out of appreciation. They're not doing it out of a friendship, right? Uh, a mutual relationship. They react. They do things, but that's the reason why these animals get to be a little bit fearful of their rider. So if the rider does something abruptly, this horse literally flinches. It's kind of like a dog that's been hit too many times with a rolled up newspaper. Every time you pick up a newspaper, that dog just kind of cowers. Horses will do the same thing. That newspaper is the rein, right? And so there's a difference, a clear difference. So what you're seeing, that's what that's translated to, right? Because and a lot of us don't realize it. We're just like, wow, that horse just does this, but why is it reacting a little bit differently? Why is it so quick to react, or why is it so um, jumpy? And that's usually because, oh man, if I don't do this, that whip's going to come out and that crop is going to come out and hit me on the butt, or you know someone's going to be angry or upset with me and react quickly or violently. In their mind, violent is different from what our mind is, right? We can move really quickly or abruptly, and that to them is a level of pressure that could translate to you know um, a negative experience, and they're heightened by that. They're evolutionarily, a horse is heightened to that behavior because that's how they're wired. They're wired so that if something moves fast and quick and towards you, you need to be afraid. That's how they've survived millions of years. So those are the things that we don't realize that we do, that translates to a negative experience with that horse, a negative reaction, right? So as a horse trainer, many of us, who are acute to that, become very soft with our horses, right? We don't move abruptly. We don't, you know, react in a certain way out of our anger. Horses teach us a lot. Horses teach us how to be patient. Horses teach us, as human beings, how to, you know, change the way that we behave towards them, and it translates to how we behave to each other. And that's why a lot of horsemen are very easygoing, kind people, because if they have worked with horses enough, they realize, hey, my behavior could be translated as being something aggressive or unpleasant. And in general, you know this is why it's a good therapy, right? Because it forces you to reflect upon yourself, like how your mood is, what you're doing, and it's a day-to-day thing, you know um and it calms you down. The horse will remind you, because they're just going to look at you with this fearful look in their eyes, and you're like, wait, I didn't do anything wrong, and then you realize, oh, I did, because I was upset about something, and I threw something on the ground, or I moved in a very aggressive manner, and this horse just looked at me like, oh my gosh, like, should I be running away from this person, or should I just stand here and wait, right? So Bettina, that's kind of what it is, and I teach you guys how to do that. Over time, I mean, you'll realize these things as we go along, about yourself. It's just a reflection upon you. And that's why, Bettina, you take a deep breath when I tell you, hey, if you're just nervous, Just sit on that horse, don't move, take a deep breath, and collect yourself. While you're collecting yourself, that horse is collecting itself. Him or herself. She's going to sit under you and be like, deep breath. Wow, this person is, kind of hitting the reset button, and I'm going to do the same thing.
And that is, yes, what one of the many things I've learned from you. And what's great about taking horseback riding lessons or spending time with horses with my herd, meaning Cerna, we spend a lot of time talking about our interaction with our horses. We each have a favorite horse that we like to be with, so that horse is getting used to us. So shout out to Joey and Oliver, our favorites. We love them. We love them all. Popcorn, Joy. No, really, I could go on and on. But in that, Doug, in our discussion this morning and to share with everyone, it's very interesting that even our discussion with Michael Olson, who has now left the studio, that you started talking about the therapeutic value of horses. Because last night on YouTube, that was one of the things Cerna and I were watching, these different doctors who talked about the therapeutic value in taking patients in to be with horses. And within that, in our discussion, because as I've shared with Doug and I have this certain feeling towards horses, respect, revere. It's been such a goal to be with horses. So I've come to the conclusion now that in the last month, I've been spending a lot of time with horses, specifically Joey. I've learned that I have to get over the fact that I'm finally with horses. Because, Doug, I could feel it yesterday. I was bringing, with Caden's assistance, her there, of course, I was bringing Joey up from the corral, leading him up, properly leading him. But he was being a little standoffish, which made sense. Okay, so I was letting him know, you don't have to work, you don't have to do anything, I'm going to groom you, I'm going to brush you, I'm just going to be with you. But I felt myself at first, what I'm saying is when I first was with Joey, there's that kind of, I'm keyed up, I'm nervous. I can feel it. Is Joey going to do what I want? And I could already feel Joey's like, no. I could feel it, really. He stopped and he said, no, I'm not going to do what you want, Bettina, unless you ask me right. Come on. And Caden was giving me suggestions, of course. She really was the one who, but once we got grooming him, and I could feel myself being more comfortable. Okay, of course. Grooming and petting and talking to Joey, I could feel us both relax. So for example, when I led him back to the corral, and I've been taught how to lead Joey properly, horses properly, he was much more relaxed to go back. Plus he knew he didn't have to do anything. No riding, no lesson, no Bettina kicking me in the wrong place, and he didn't have to be extra patient with me. But why do you think perhaps that is? This is the question, Doug. There is a question. How can, even though I can sense that Joey senses that, but even as you're saying, I composed myself, I took a breath, and Joey let me get over the fact that you think I'm so special.
Yeah, well, horses, when they become very familiar with you, and you should actually take that as kind of a compliment, because when a horse accepts you as part of their herd, that's when they feel comfortable enough to say, hey, look, we need to establish some kind of hierarchy here. Am I the person who's supposed to be protecting you, or are you supposed to be looking out for me? Right. And that's every horse in every herd. That's the way they communicate with each other. So when a horse starts to ask those questions or challenge you, and that's how they ask, is that they start to challenge your leadership. That's actually a kind of a compliment, in that they say, hey, this is part of my herd now, this person. And your job is to say, hey, I am in charge, because I'm doing what's best for you, and so you need to follow me, so we can go down here and get you cleaned up, get you groomed, keep yourself clean, and disease free, keep the flies off of you, those kinds of things. That's when it is appropriate for you to take a more assertive leadership role. You just say, okay, listen, you're kind of challenging me right now, and I'm going to need you to follow me, right? So there's when you should really take the upper hand in this situation and be a good leader at that point, because horses really are looking for leadership. They might challenge you, but they become very uncomfortable if they have to take the leadership role, because then everything becomes super scary, because, oh gosh, like I really wanted to be in charge, but now that I'm in charge, I'm like,
I'm freaked
I don't
out.
know. I'm
I'm
freaked
freaked
out.
out.
I have too much freedom. I have too many decisions to make. What do I do?
Joey says, tell me something or do something, or I'm just going to stand here.
Right. So that's what it is. So he just goes, okay, well, I don't know what's supposed to happen here, so I'm just gonna not move, right? But if you put your foot down and you maintain pressure on that lead rope, you just hold it, that pressure, just about 2 or 3 pounds of pressure, and just give him a couple seconds, and then he'll just, okay, I guess you're wanting me to follow you, so I'm just gonna follow you. And he'll start walking, he'll start moving his feet. The thing about horses is the assertive one, the most dominant one, the leader, is the one that makes all the other horses move their feet. And if you take that leadership role, it is your responsibility to make that horse move its feet. So if you're walking him away from his stall and his pen mates, and you say, okay, we're going to do something right now, then you have to take that leadership role. You've committed yourself to being in charge, which means you're going to have to make him move his feet, right? That's a horse behavior 101.
And in that, you've suggested to me, and maybe there are other people who are like me, you've said treat the horse like your child, as in telling it to do. So, again, I go with my daughter, Serna, we take our lessons together. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I've looked at Doug, everyone, and said, well, there's my herd, there's my daughter. And I actually think it's very beneficial that we go as a herd. Cern and I have talked about that. The animals, the horses see us together, that we're a herd, they're a herd. Sometimes when we cluster together, like that episode with the Appaloosa, we were all a herd clustered together going, what's going on over there with the Appaloosa? So Cerna's reminded me as the herd leader, because she is the herd leader. She's given me good suggestions because she's excelled very well in your tutorship. But what I'm also trying to learn, I lost my focus. I'm very horse-like, I'm very horse. I skier easy, so that's part. Sometimes I guess your horses are so trained, so I know sometimes they're going to take control if I don't. So I go ahead and let Joey take control, because he's going to be fine when we're in the corral. He's going to go left, go right. He knows not to trot or run with me yet. I can't. I'm not quite there yet. But so I'm safe with him. So this is your question. How do you still take leadership when you feel safe on the horse?
Well, this is where being a rider and being a horseman is kind of crucial, right? Don't be along for the ride. This is not a roller coaster ride. And you're not driving a machine, right?
Right, but what if you like what your horse is doing, though? It's not, no, we're not on a merry-go-round, but
sure.
Hey, Joey's doing this. Oh my God, he's turning, and now I'll turn in circles. And this is good. I'm very comfortable with Joey's lead, and obviously he's comfortable with it. So again, really taking control when you feel like you don't need to take control.
Yes. So that you are in control, right, Bettina? Because what you're saying is, hey, I'm giving you the freedom to do something right now. Don't abuse it. Just like you did your kid. right? My son, when he was a little child, like I gave him the freedom to make decisions and try to do things. But when it came down to me asking, it's crucial that he does what I ask, because a lot of the things that I ask of him is for his own safety and my safety, right? So the horse is the same way. Like when I'm riding my horses, I let them, meander about. Sometimes, we go out on the trail and we just walk down the trail, and this horse says, "Hey, I'm gonna walk, around this tree stump instead of walk over it." Okay, go do it, you know. But when I say, "Hey, that path is not a safe path because there's loose ground over there. I'm just gonna need you to come back and let's step over this branch." That is a safety concern. That is a crucial part of which, when I have to take over leadership, right, that horse is going to follow. And that's the difference between being a horseman and a rider, right? If you give the horse a little bit of freedom, it's not that you're giving up control. You're still in control. You're just allowing that horse to do things, and give it a little more freedom to do things. And then when you need to pull back that control, you have the ability to do that, right? So you don't have to be like on top of your horse the whole entire time and micromanage every single breath it takes, micromanage every single muscle movement. It's not necessary. It's one of those things, and that's the difference between being a rider and a horseman. A horseman allows that horse to move its body about. We're not micromanaging anything here, you know. We're working together, right? Um, and being a rider is very different. Being a rider is somebody who's just be like, okay, listen, you are a machine. I need you to go here. I need you to take this many breaths. I need you to, take this many steps, and I need you to do it while your neck is, cocked and framed up, and I need you to do X, Y, and Z. See, we don't do that. We don't need to do that. As a horseman, you just let your horse be natural until you need to say, okay, stop. We're getting into a place where you got to listen to me a little more carefully here. Right. And then that horse will stop and listen to you. So that's what you're learning to do with Joey right now, right? You're allowing him to do that. He's doing that because you gave him the authority to do that. But when you need to pull back that control and you say, okay, Joe, I need you to pay attention now, Joe will pay attention.
He does pay attention. Sometimes he
Exactly.
becomes Joseph. Joseph. One good analogy Cerna gave this morning when we were having our pre-Bettina's Buzz talk, so that meant pre-horse talk, is she gave me the analogy, Doug, of in terms of taking control of the horse. And I hope I say this right, Cerna. She always listens. She said, Mom, if you're standing on the street and you need to cross the street and you have my hand and you look at me and say, come on, and you have that full authority, I'm going to listen to you and do what you say, and that's an urgent moment and you're not asking me to do something. So I get the parental, the look, the whole energy is different, so the response is different. But just again, and then we'll go into a break, Doug, but again, Cerna is a good horse, okay? And we have a miniature min pin. That's why we're also good with horses. We have a little horse, but the difference between Murray, especially for me, Doug, if he doesn't listen to me enough, I can always pick him up, okay? I always do have the final say. I can pick him up. I obviously can't pick Joey up. And Cerna always listened. That's what I meant. Cerna was never difficult. It could be my parenting. I don't know. It could be the look I gave at the one time she did something. It could have been, yes, as we call it, the McBee look. She sat down on me once, okay? She was 2, okay, and she sat down, that natural defiance, and I was totally shocked by it, quite frankly. And I looked down at her. I didn't yell, and I just looked at her and I said, don't you ever do that again. And she got up and she's never done that again. And that's all. I mean, for me, it was once. It's not repetitive. It's not constant. I feel like if I ask once, should be enough. So we'll get back to those lessons on Bettina's Buzz, talking about horses and horseback riding lessons, and Chaparral Ranch, and Doug, our guest on Bettina's Buzz.
Cannabis is one of nature's most beneficial plants, and at Treehouse Dispensary, we use it to build community. In addition to dispensing cannabis and education, Treehouse hosts First Friday events every month that feature our community's local artists, makers, and activists. If you're 21 plus, join us at 3651 Soquel Drive every First Friday from 5 to 8 p.m. to enjoy the work of local artists and musicians, find one-of-a-kind gifts, and learn more about the top cannabis products in California. See you soon.
It's time now to repair or replace your roof. Hi, folks. Warren Knox here of Knox Roofing. Well, we install leak-proof and fire-proof roofs. Roofs that look nice with a lot of choices of colors and styles. Gutters, skylights, insulation, and roof decks. We only install proven products with warranties unmatched by anybody. Financing is always available, and we have discounts for veterans and seniors. Do business with Knox Roofing, and you'll also receive a free Knox Garden Box. The number to call again is 831-461-0634. Thanks, folks.
Want to learn more about what it takes to succeed as a business or nonprofit? Then hear from those that have. Join Tam and Susan O'Connor-Fraser on Think Local First Radio, Fridays at 1 p.m. on Santa Cruz Voice.
From sommeliers to comedians, Tai Chi master to happy centenarian, on Go Ahead and Tell Me, we meet the people who turn passion into purpose. Every voice, every craft, one conversation at a time. 1 p.m. Thursdays, SantaCruzVoice.com.
11/11 is Thank a Veteran Day. You can thank your local veterans by visiting VFW Post 7263's Veterans Day Open House from 3 to 7 at 2259 7th Avenue in Santa Cruz. Meet and greet the veterans. Enjoy food, drinks, live music from the Joe Bland Band, and have a look around the VFW Hall. We do owe them a thanks, so drop by the VFW Hall on 7th Avenue during Veterans Day and thank a vet.
Thank you very much for listening to SantaCruzVoice.com, Bettina's Buzz on this Saturday. And on the line with me is Doug. Good morning again, Doug.
Morning.
Where are you calling us from this morning? Where are you?
I'm actually at the ranch right now. I'm sitting in the barn, where we're getting ready to have a birthday party later on this afternoon. I just got done dealing with an abscess on one of my draft horses. And I'm just kind of chilling, talking to you right now.
Now I'm jealous. I wish I was at the ranch mucking stalls. I wish I was mucking stalls. We'll have to talk about that more later after being on the air. Yeah, there's something about the ranch. There's, as we've been discussing, the magical quality of horses. But Doug, it's also in the little over a month that CERN and I have been out there, we've met some really wonderful people, not only staff that work for you and with you, but the different volunteers when we were out there yesterday, volunteering, being with the horses, as we said, grooming and mucking stalls. We met some really nice people. Horses attract good people. Do you agree?
Yeah, they do. Horses do bring out, a lot of people, and they bring a lot of good characters out of people too. I mean, there are people out there who aren't always like the nicest people, but somehow, some way, when they come out to the ranch, it brings out the best in them, and I think it's a testament to what I was talking about earlier with, was it Michael? About
Yes, Michael Olson.
About the horses and their ability to kind of center you and bring you back. They have this nonverbal communication that's very therapeutic, and it reminds you of a lot of things, and it reminds you that, hey, I'm not going to come close to you unless you can show me that you're a nice person.
And in that mindfulness, Doug, just to share with everybody, in the beginning, well, speaking for myself, I am very mindful of how I approach the horses, as we should be. But as I've shared with Doug and shared with everyone, I've been spending a lot of time, Cern, and I watching different things. Technology can be wonderful when you can push a button or speak into your remote control and YouTube and ask to look at horses running free or see different people. Just discuss the way we should address horses and the different science, both from veterinarians or different trainers, on the proper way to respect and approach the horse. Forget getting on the animal's back, but just respecting the horse. And I think, Doug, that's what I've really learned too, really concentrating on how to approach the animal. Because, of course, people who have been around horses don't have to think twice about it, and you can watch how they do, and it's a natural flow, it's a natural dance, like once you know all the steps. But in learning that, to be very mindful of it, as you're saying, you become more aware of how you move, how you present yourself. Like I've even shared with Serna, I know every time I go out to the ranch, out around the horses, I already know I want to get out of the car calm, that nothing's going on. And one suggestion I've heard is, with no expectations of anything, of yourself or the horse, when you go out to be with them, don't expect that you'll have a good ride, a bad ride. And Doug, that really helped me on last Wednesday's lesson, because I said, I'm not going to expect anything, or by this many days I should be able to make Joey like leap over the logs, or just see how it goes. And Joey listened to me more than he ever. Sometimes everyone, because Cerna and Oliver are in the corral too, and Joey will hear Cerna tell Oliver to do something, and Joey will listen to her. And sometimes I've had to say, now wait a minute, that's my daughter telling Oliver what to do. You have to listen to me. But he's also gotten that, I think, Doug, that we're a herd, and out of the herd, even though if I seem so chill, no, I'm in control of our herd. I am in control of our herd, Cerna, right? She's like, well, I don't know about that. I'm sure she's like, I don't know about that, Mom. But anyway.
I'm so happy you brought that up. I'm really happy that you brought that up, because this is something that I often have to remind people about with respect to horses. Horses are horses, and the way that we're talking about these horses right now, you, myself, and Cerna, is that we are acting as though we are a horse ourselves, and we're talking about them this way. And it's really important for you to kind of have that perspective, because when you expect a horse to be like a human is when you run into a lot of trouble, because it's not their nature to be human. They're not humans, right? They're horses.
Yeah, because they're smarter than we are, everybody. That's why they've been around a lot longer than we have. So yeah, they're not human.
Right. So they Joey's listening. He's listening to, what's happening. He's just paying attention to what's going on. Now, he doesn't understand a word that we're saying, really. He just understands that when this person is doing this or that with their hands, that they're asking us to do something.
Okay.
Okay, right? That's
Doug,
his,
on this.
That's his method of communication.
On this, okay. Yes, in my communication, I'm interrupting him. Because in that, this is what everyone we've learned from Doug. Okay. Doug, you just said that horses don't understand what we're saying. Okay. There was a day I was out there, and I was being tutelaged and given some very valuable information about horses and certain things and blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, I asked Joey, did Joey mind if I groomed and brushed him? And I was quickly told, don't talk to the horse like that. That horse doesn't know what you're talking about. He didn't understand. And I looked at this, who I learned quite a bit from, and I said, oh, so I'm not supposed to let Joey know that I respect him enough to say even. But it's still that the horse, just in the way you said it, but Doug, you said it differently. That's my point. You didn't say, oh, no, that horse doesn't understand it. Because We've seen you around your horses and how much your horses loved you, and you give them love. Everybody, Doug is firm with his horses, but he gives them the love they deserve. When they're scared, who do they look for? Doug. They look
Right.
to Doug, they run to Doug until they know that, for example, Joey didn't always run to Doug at certain moments because he felt I was in control of the situation. I was so flattered.
Yep, exactly. So, we say things, but we also do things with the things that we say. Right? We don't just walk up and have a conversation with the horse. We don't talk to the horse about it. When I was growing up, this is the relationship I had with my mother. Like, they're our psychologist, and expect them to be able to understand everything we say. But when you walk up to a horse and you say, "Hey, Joey, I'm going to brush you down," and you're holding a brush in your hand and you're touching them, you know, you are saying that with your body, right? Now, the words and the sounds that come out of our mouths is something that the horse learns, you know, um, as a sound that comes with the nonverbal communication that is affirming, and that's what they're getting from our talking to them, right? My horses, they feel a sense of comfort when they hear my voice. You know, that's why they understand the word "whoa." When you say "whoa," they stop because they have a limited vocabulary with human language, right? Um, some horses, can respond with verbal commands. I mean, I have a horse that's I don't have to do anything but say trot, and they'll trot, right? So if I say walk, they'll walk. But you can talk to your horses. You should talk to your horses because when you're talking, you're also moving your body and your hands and things like that. You're also acting, right? So when the verbal comes with the nonverbal communication, and that's how humans communicate. That's how horses are very adaptable in that sense. They pick up on the nonverbal communication first, and then they commit that nonverbal communication to the audible part of what comes out of our mouths.
And I
Right?
think, Doug, as we started off speaking on the therapeutic value of horses, when people who can't talk to other people, as we discussed and we've seen and heard therapists talk about, the horse may not, yes, understand the words when someone who goes out, Doug, and says, when I was a kid and something and my parents, but yes, in that, obviously, though the horse can't understand the words, the the feeling that starts coming out of us as we're saying these things to the horse, as someone said in this, they know that the horse, the animal, but we're speaking, is not going to repeat what they said. So in expressing whatever it is your mom did, your dad did, you did, there's a certain feeling that's coming out of us that the horse feels that then can respond to. And if you've if you haven't ever had, or if you've had a horse turn into you to give you a hug, or that horses understand, there is nothing in this whole world better than that.
Right. Well, horses, it's like I said. Remember what I talked about with them horses being a very good therapeutic tool. It's because people say and do different things. We often, as human nature, we say one thing and do another. Right. We mask our pain and suffering with things. We say things that we don't really mean. Horses horses bring out the honesty in you, and that's how they're therapeutic, because you could pretend to be happy when you're in pain, but they don't they don't listen to your words, they listen to your actions. That's how they communicate. So you can't lie to a horse about your feeling. I can tell a horse I'm completely happy, and if I'm moving around as though I'm angry, that horse is not going to want to come anywhere close to me. You see where I'm getting at? So that's
Yes.
what brings that's why a horse brings out the honesty in you, right? It reminds you, hey, be honest. Be honest about what you're doing and what you're feeling and how you're going about things.
And the reward you receive from those honest, gentle reactions is priceless.
Yes, because what you get back from a horse is complete honesty, right? It's unfiltered.
Yeah. Doug, how can people find you? We've got a little over 3 minutes left, so I want to let the listeners know for sure. How can they find you and your great fleet of horses?
Yeah, come out to the Marina Equestrian Center in Marina, California. This is a city park. I have my horses here. I'm the concessionaire here who has all of these horses that they're here for the community and for people. You don't have to ask permission to come out. You just come out, and you don't have to ask permission to touch any of my horses. I've got 16 or 17 of them here, and you can pet them and say hi to them, and spend time with them. It doesn't cost you anything, But if you want to take lessons, then ask one of us, and we'll provide, how to book lessons or things like that.
And it's a wonderland right there in Marina. I'm a woman who spent a lot of time growing up in Marina, my childhood, and just really the fact that the horses are right there. Don't go to Target. Go to Chaparral Ranch. Go to they've got all those new houses they built there. Just drive past them and go to the ranch. It's a magical, right there in the middle of all that. Sorry, I'm a longtime Marina girl. There used to be none of those houses out there, Doug. None of those, no those little houses. But people, it was great. Your festival, when Cern and I left your harvest festival, what was that, last week, couple Sundays ago? People were coming with their children from those houses, and you're just walking right there. So that made it worth it. I was thinking, well, that's worth it. People can literally, and that's the magic. You can walk right there.
Yeah.
Or you can just right there in Marina. Everyone, come on, we locals, you don't have to drive to Carmel Valley, which is great. Carmel Valley's beautiful. Lots of horses in Carmel Valley. But look, you can right there in Marina. Right there.
Yeah, it's right here in your backyard for most people.
So what's next on the agenda? We got horseback riding lessons. You got a birthday party today so people can have parties there?
Yeah. And then on the 19th, we have line dancing in the evening from 6 to 8 out here. And then we're going to be announcing a winter festival pretty soon here.
Ooh, yay.
It's going to be right before Christmas, sometime between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And, we'll have some vendors out here, give people an opportunity to buy Christmas gifts, and the local vendors a chance to sell some product,
Yeah, that's great. A lot of community support at Chaparral Ranch there.
Right.
Very much. Doug is very much into community, as we are here on SantaCruzVoice.com. Doug, thank you very much, so much for taking the time to be on Bettina's Buzz this morning. I greatly appreciate you. I'm learning so much from you. I can't wait to come back out to the ranch. We might come out tomorrow. I don't know. It's so addicting. But again, thank you very much. Serna thanks you too. Thank you everyone for listening. You have a great day. Tell Cassie we said hi. Thank you again, Cassie, for all your help corralling Doug to the phone this morning. I do appreciate you. See you next time at the ranch. And Michael Jacoby's up next. Have a beautiful Saturday. And if you see a horse, approach it properly.